So you were in band and playing baseball at the same time?
Yeah, I did.
So you got paid playing baseball?
Yeah, but not much. We were semi-pro, and we got paid, but not much. We didn't make much money. If we got $100 a game, we were doing great.
Well, $100 a game in the 1940s,
Well,
that's pretty darn good, isn't it?
This was about 1950, 1951, 52. Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
Now, what about it? Did you have a regular job at the same time?
No, I couldn't hold a job. I was too busy playing baseball.
What about the pumping gas job?
Yeah, I did have that. I'm trying to think how I had that the time that I was playing baseball. Because he'd give me off. Man, anytime we had an out-of-town game, he'd give me time off. So that was never any problem. I probably would average maybe 2 or 3 days a week at the pumping gas station. As I said, I didn't do much work there. I picked up a little cash.
I need to find me a job like that, so I can play at night.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I burned the candle on both ends. I did everything. I made up my mind I was going to play with a band. I made up my mind I was going to play baseball. I made up my mind I was going to do all those things.
And you were flying planes.
Yeah, and I made up my mind I was going to do it, and I did. I did it all. I stayed busy. I never had any real off time. But
Well, now what time period did you have your Cessna?
had what?
Your Cessna airplane?
Oh, yeah, that was just before I married. That was in 19. Let's see, I got that airplane in 19. We married in 1959. I basically married in 59.
Okay,
Well, I
let's
was
see.
married. I married after I got out of the Navy. I married. And I was married doing a lot of that.
Mhm.
My wife was working, and I was married. I was on the go on a lot of it. I'm just trying to think
His age, let's see, I don't know that I have a.
how long.
But you had that first plane that you
Yeah.
crashed.
Yeah,
How long did you have that one?
I didn't have that plane but about, I think, 3 months.
Oh, and
Before
then
it
you
crashed.
crashed it.
Yeah.
So you look, we're gonna review that
Now, that was after the war. That was after the war was over that I had that plane. And then I bought another plane. I had that plane until Betty and I married. We married in 1959, I believe it was. And I had that plane when we married. So I had the first plane I had was about 1952 or somewhere along in there. And then I bought the second plane and kept it until we married in 1959.
And you just had to sell it.
Yeah, I had to sell it.
Make money on it.
Yeah, I made a little bit. Didn't make as much as I would have liked to, but I had to get rid of it. There's no way I could keep it. Betty didn't like it, and I was working too, and so I don't remember what I got for it, but I think I got a pretty good price. Got a guy from South Carolina heard about it and came up there to buy it, and he took it around. He decided he'd take it.
But you didn't lose money on it.
No, I didn't lose.
And you got to ride it,
Yeah,
fly it.
right. I flew it for about 2.5 years, I guess it was, something like that.
That was pretty good. So you haven't flown a plane since,
No,
except for being a passenger.
yeah, well, I flew Norman Pobitty, you know.
Yeah, Norman Carter.
He bought a plane after I got out, and he had me fly it several times. Just we'd go up in and fly over to Columbus, and he just let me fly it over there and back. Just I liked the plane. It was a Cessna too, but it was bigger than mine.
Now, did Betty know you flew that one?
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I think that was just before we married. Yeah,
Okay.
just about
I've got this young one.
somewhere in there. I can't put all the time stuff together, really.
So then who came first for your kids? Was Chuck the first one?
Chuck was the first
Mm-hmm.
one born. He was born about, I guess about a year after we married, he was born. And then 2 years later,
Oh, I thought that's what you were looking for.
Beth was born, and 2 years later, James was
Oh, well,
born.
let's put this back. I thought that's.
Yeah,
Stair stepped.
Beth stepped.
Beth's a little firecracker, isn't she? Has she always been that way?
Yes.
What was Jane like?
Jane was, oh, she was a great kid. She was never in any trouble. She just, I mean, she was a love. She was the type of kid you dream of having.
Mhm.
Oh, everything was just great. She was,
And now she's in home ec, so
yeah, she
that's
changed. She changed. The time came when she started dating the men, and she changed a
and
lot.
life happened.
Yeah,
And then your sister, you and your sister were real close growing up, weren't you?
very close. Always. The whole time she lived, we were very, very close. I talked to her every week on the telephone. Every week. Yeah, we were very close.
Well, we've heard some of the stories of you and her, what you did with,
Yeah.
while she was on dates, you'd ride around in your, was it a Model A or Model T?
No, it wasn't either one. It was, I think it was a Chevrolet, but it was an old model.
Looking through some hole in the dash and ducking down so it looked like nobody was driving it.
Right.
Did she ever get in any trouble?
Catherine?
Yeah.
No, she never got in trouble.
Hmm.
Never been in it.
So that was that Talbotton or was that
Talbotton.
Cairo? When did y'all move to Cairo?
Talbotton. I never lived in Cairo.
Oh, so she moved to Cairo.
Yeah, Betty was born in Cairo. She grew up in Cairo. And my sister lived in Cairo for a while. Her husband was the manager of the big
Campbell Soup.
Campbell Soup
Mhm.
plant there in Cairo. And he met Catherine when Catherine was at the University of Georgia. And he was at the University of Georgia. And they met and married. And then he went off in the Army. But they lived in Cairo for quite a while. And I went to Cairo. We went to see Catherine. Mother and I went down to see Catherine. And that's where I met Betty.
Hmm.
We had a date. We ended up married.
Well, I've met your mother, Clyde. Is that what her name was?
Yeah,
I remember Clyde,
yeah.
but I never met your dad.
No, he died. Dad died in 1971.
I heard he was a very quiet man, but he laughed so loud that everybody in the square could hear him.
Yeah.
Loved to hear jokes.
Oh, yeah, he loved jokes. He loved jokes.
And I heard he did dental work during the Depression for
Yeah.
people who'd pay him in vegetables and chickens and eggs and stuff.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But eventually it paid off. 'Cause,
Yeah.
eventually, boy, he made a lot of money and he worked hard, really hard.
I heard he'd pull people's teeth at all hours of the night.
He did. They'd come down there at 1 o'clock in the morning, knock on the door, tell him, Doc, I sure got a toothache. Get up, go take care of it, come back.
Now the story I heard, I think Menda tells it, he had a brother and they had to decide who was going to get to go to dental school,
Yeah,
and they flipped a coin.
I'm not sure about that. Yeah, now, I don't remember the coin flip, but one of his brothers became a professor at the University of Oklahoma.
Ooh.
And that was his oldest brother. And, no, it wasn't his oldest brother. There was a brother just a little bit older than he was, named Grady. And he went off to college, and then he became a teacher, and then eventually became a professor. But Dad went off to college. I think he went through 8th grade in high school. That's as far as he ever went.
And then he went straight to
He
college?
went straight to dental college, but he didn't go as soon as he left the 8th grade. He worked a couple of years on the farm because they needed him. Then he went to Atlanta and went to dental college, Atlanta Dental College,
Oh.
and got his degree and so forth. And then he went to Zebulon, Georgia, which is a little town south of Atlanta, about the same size as Tarver. And there he met my mother, who lived in Zebulon. And they married, and then they both moved to Tarleton because an opening came up there that lost the dentist, and he thought it was a good deal, so he moved to Tarleton.
So how many brothers and sisters did he have?
See, he had Grady, John, trying to think. Seemed like he had 4 brothers, and I'm trying to think who they were.
All your uncles, so
Yeah.
you know your uncles, all of them?
I'm trying to remember the names. Grady and Emmett. It's Grady and Emmett and Dad and John. So I know there were 4 boys in his family.
So there was an Emmett in your family
Yeah.
even then, huh?
Yeah, there was. Emmett was the oldest. He was the oldest boy. But he he stayed on the farm. He never left the farm. He stayed up right there on the farm and farmed it until he died. And Grady, he's the one that became the professor in Oklahoma. And of course, Dad did dental school, and trying to think. John became the sheriff of the county. That's his other brother. He became sheriff of Tarver County.
Now they were talking about Obe the other day. Who was Obe?
Oh, that was my grandfather on the other side.
Oh.
That was on my mother's side. And my dad's side was there in Tarver, but mother's side was in Zebulon, Georgia, just south of Atlanta. That's where she grew up. And Obe, her father was called Obe. His name was Obadiah.
Obadiah.
But they never called him anything but Obe.
Mhm.
Everybody in town, everybody in the state knew him as Obe Reed. And he and my grandmother, I'm trying to think what they called her. I can't place it right now, but anyway, she was a really lovely person.
So you knew your grandmothers and your grandfathers on both sides?
Yeah, but I never knew the grandfather on my dad's side. He died before I was born. I think he was only 42 years old when he died.
Mm.
Very young when he died. Heart attack and went right out.
Mm-hmm.
So I never knew him. I knew my other grandfather well because he and I got to be big buddies. He was just a great guy.
Obe was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, boy. He was quite a fellow.
Was your mom the disciplinarian of the family?
Well, yeah, she was. She was. She knew how to keep discipline. we stood around when she said jump, we jumped.
What about your dad?
Dad, well, funny thing about Dad worked so much long hours
Mm-hmm.
that he never was involved with trying to keep the family going. He was just working 12 hours a day. And Mother was really the disciplinarian. She handled it all. My dad never punished me but one time, and I think I told you about that. And I was about 10, 11 years old. And I got to cutting up there one day when Catherine had another girl there, and I got to cutting up, and Dad told me to hush, and I didn't. And he took me to the woodshed. He said, I know that this is going to hurt, but he said, it's going to hurt me as much as it does you, but you deserve it, and I'm going to give it to you, and I hope that it makes an impression on you. And it did. He never did have to quit me again.
Well, so what happened when they found out that you hired that boy to milk the cow for you?
Dad took it. He took things like that when I was up older, in high school. He'd take things like he just laughed about it.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get upset. He laughed about it.
Well, Minda said that her uncle, he lives in Atlanta. I can't remember his name. We've been to dinner with him. Hugh
Hugh Adams. Yeah.
looked and acted a lot like your dad.
Yeah. He's today, he still looks like it. He looks very much like it. And some of his ways were kind of like that.
He is about the easiest going guy ever.
Yeah, he really is. And he reminds me, all of us, he reminds us so much of Dad.
He doesn't laugh much though.
No, he doesn't. No, my dad laughed a lot when he was, of course, Hugh's not young any longer either. He's up, I think, about 80.
Well, now he does send some funny emails.
Yeah, he does. But he's 80 now, I believe. I think that's what his age is. But yeah, Hugh's a great guy. He really is. I haven't got one difference with him. I think he's a Democrat.
Political, yeah. We had that discussion with him briefly, and we tried not to get any deeper. He does not fit the prototype, I can tell you that.
He
It's
definitely
pretty funny.
does not, and I just have to believe that he doesn't know all the details about the president.
We tried to be nice and just not
Yeah.
talk about it.
I never talk about it with him.
Yeah.
We don't, because he and I have a great relationship, and we correspond by email regularly.
Mhm.
But I never would mention that. I have sent him some emails that told the truth about the president, but
Mhm.
that was before I found out that he
Yeah.
was a Democrat. I didn't know it. So I know he didn't ever say anything about it. I sent some emails to him that really told what the president's all about.
Yeah.
But he never did reply to it, never mentioned it.
Yeah,
When I found out that was his man, I stopped doing that.
yeah. Yeah.
But he's an all right guy. He really is.
Well, now, what was Betty doing when you met her?
She was teaching school in Albany, Georgia. Albany, Georgia.
And she lived in Cairo?
She was from Cairo, but she had been teaching school in Albany. And she taught school in Atlanta.
Really?
Yeah, she taught school in Atlanta. In fact, she taught school up until shortly before I met her. She wasn't teaching school in Atlanta when I met her, but just shortly before I met her, she was.
Then when Chuck came along, did she stop teaching?
Yeah, she stopped teaching.
And were you working at Crawford and Company at that point?
Yeah, I was working at Crawford and Company when I'm sure when Betty and I met, I was working at Crawford and Company. Yeah, I went to Crawford and Company in 1952, I believe.
So when you by the time you met her, you had been flying, you had been in the Navy, you'd been a baseball player, you'd been in basically a professional band.
Yeah.
You had a whole life in you by the time you met Betty.
I really is.
Are
Betty,
you worth all this trouble? Just tell me what. Are you worth all this
I
trouble?
don't know. I doubt it.
I don't think
I
so.
doubt it.
I don't think you're worth all this.
Betty, it sounds like you're his second life.
I am. You didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
Really, I thought you knew about that.
I didn't know it when I first started dating him.
If she'd known it when I first started dating her, she might not have married me.
Might not have had a second date.
That's right.
Good thing I didn't know.
I fooled her. I just flat out fooled her.
So she took you and your drum set also?
Yeah, she took the whole work.
But wouldn't take that plane, would you, Betty?
No, sirree, I didn't want to be part of that thing.
Yes, sir. By the time I met Betty, I wasn't doing much playing with the band then. I think I'd left the band because we were living in Wilmington, and I left the band when I left Daytona Beach.
So when you went into the Navy, was it a draft situation?
No, I went in voluntarily, but see, I was in college, and I got a waiver from being drafted because I was in college. But after I finished a year, almost, not quite, 2 years in college, they they put me on the draft list. And I knew I was going to be drafted, and they'd already told me I was going to be drafted. So then I immediately went and enlisted in the Navy.
Now, did you get in the Navy because you wanted to make sure you didn't get in the Army or something?
No, I'd always wanted to be in the Navy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all my life I wanted to be in the Navy. When I was in grammar school, I made up my mind I was going to be a Navy officer and I was going to go to war.
No kid. So you had a lot of things that you made up your mind you wanted to be in the Navy.
Yeah.
You made up your mind you wanted to be in a band. You made up your mind you wanted to play baseball.
And that's right.
Sounds like you've pretty much done everything. What else have you made up your mind to do?
We were talking about that the other day. 4 things I made up my mind I was going to do when I was 12 years old, and I did every one.
Huh. So we got 3 of them.
Flyer, baseball player,
What was the first one?
flyer.
Oh, flyer. So you
Yeah.
have done them all.
Yeah, I had made up my mind at 12 years old that those 4 things I was going to do. And I got and did every one.
I think it's time for you to make up your mind on some more stuff.
It's all over now.
Well, Howard Hughes, we saw something on him. He made up his mind to do 4 things, and one of them was be the richest man in the world. And I think he pretty much got that. He wanted to be the best golfer in the world. Many people didn't know it, but he had his handicap was like 1 or something like that. He wanted to be a premier movie maker in the world. And a lot of people don't know it, but he made a lot.
He did.
And I don't remember what the 4th one was, but he pretty much made all his.
Yeah. I made up my mind early what I wanted to do. Set out to do it.
Oh man, I better make up my mind to do something before life's over. I used to joke around that, I'd say, well, I'm 26 years old and I haven't made my first million yet. Well, I'm 27, I haven't made my first million. And maybe it was 20s or 30s, I can't remember, but when I hit 40, I think it was, or maybe it's 30, then at my front door, Chrissy, Roseanne's daughter, had left me a birthday present. When I opened it up, it was a package of 10 Nestle $100,000 bars, and she said, "You finally made your first million." Isn't that great?
Yeah, that was great. That was great. Well, I tell you, I think you're doing great. You got a business, and you're well qualified, and you've done well with it. I think you've done fine.
Yeah.
I think any young man starting out ought to be happy to make it to where you made it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not ashamed of it, but
No.
I really never set out to do anything. I got the electrical engineering degree.
Yeah.
Thought I would pursue that, but ended up doing accounting. I'm not even sure I'll end up doing that. Find something else to do as fast as I can.
I tell you, that's I think you're doing fine.
Did y'all ever have family pets?
You mean animals?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had dogs and cats when our kids were growing up. Mostly dogs. When they were little, we had a highly prized dog that some guy had and got rid of it because the dog had some peculiar habits, which we didn't know about when we got the dog. But it was a beautiful dog. I can't call the name of it. You know, I'll call the name. But anyway, every time we leave the door, my dog would take off and he wouldn't come home. We'd have to scour the neighborhood and finally all the neighbors and people in that area knew about the dog's habit. So they'd call us and say, "So what dog's name? He's out here in the yard. Hold him, we'll come to him." When we finally got rid of him, well, we had all kinds of dogs. We had little dogs. And my dad had a bird dog. My dad loved to quail hunt. And we had a quail hunting dog, a pointer. And that's when I was growing up. When I was married, Betty and I had dogs, 4 or 5 different dogs, at least. And cats, we had 2 or 3 cats. Jane, our youngest daughter, loved the cats. Beth loved the dogs. So we had both at the time.
Did you ever hunt much?
Yeah.
Hunt with your dad?
Yeah, I did a good bit of hunting. Growing up when I was in high school, I hunted a good bit. My dad had a 12-gauge shotgun, and I shot that. And then finally, I bought a shotgun, automatic, which I love that automatic. And
How many shells would it hold?
it was 5, the whole 5.
So you didn't have to pump it?
No, it was automatic. I bought that. I didn't buy that gun. I'll tell you where I got it. It was Betty's dad's gun.
Hmm.
Now, my dad had the pump,
Mm-hmm.
the pump, but I didn't particularly like the pump. And when Betty and I married, Betty's dad had a 12-gauge automatic, and he gave it to me.
Nice.
And I kept that gun. I just sold it maybe, I guess 6 or 7 years ago. I sold it. Maybe earlier than that, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I finally decided to sell it. I thought, well, I'm never going to use it.
Mm.
But it was one of the best guns I ever shot. I did a good bit of hunting. We hunted quail, hunted doves, rabbits. I did a good bit of hunting in high school.
Mm.
And I did a good bit of hunting when I married Betty, because we go around there, and her father would take me out on these dove shoots. And that's where he knew I liked the gun, and when he got a little bit older, he gave me that gun. I was tickled to death to get it. It was a nice gun.
Well, I guess I'm about ready to head up to the
Ah, girl.
Joe's place.